welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He is AI plus automation expert for solopreneurs, no other than Mr. Andy Reinhold.
Thanks for having me.
Well, welcome to Book 101, Mr. Andy, and can you please introduce more about
Yeah,
yourself?
yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Daniel. I'm excited to be here. I'm Andy Reinhold. I'm the founder of Studio Spark. I'm a former Deloitte consulting manager, and my story is I burned out really hard. I failed my very first business while I was raising two kids. And then I was also battling cancer at the time. And after I got better, I was chasing a dream job in video games, only to find out it wasn't really the dream. So after I got better, after I healed from my cancer, I promised myself that I would never ever waste time on things I didn't love again. And now I'm obsessed with just helping people, mainly solopreneurs and small businesses, do more with less using AI and automation. And the biggest reason for that is because time is the only currency we can't get back. So I'm really bullish on making sure that we make the maximum use of our time.
Definitely, Mr. Andy Reinhold. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge to the world.
Thank you.
Studio Spark, what will be the vision and mission of your company?
Yeah, so we look for ways for small businesses and solopreneurs to find time, and a lot of that is actually mostly done in strategy. So with the today's, with the massive amount of information that we get today on AI and automation tools, it's pretty overwhelming, and there's something new coming up every minute, pretty much, right? So what I focus on with my clients is, hey, what's this problem that you're trying to solve? And what's the right tool set that's actually going to help you solve your problem? Right. So what I focus on a lot is just what are some of your major blockers? What are some of your major blockers to getting you the goals that you want to get to? And um, really, we do that with generally the areas we do that in is content creation for inbound leads, lead generation for outbound leads. We have operations, internal workflows, and my philosophy is really simple. If it's repeatable, it can be automated, right? And we'll find the right balance of the tool set that you need. When it comes to cost, the high techiness of it, and what's actually going to work for your business, right?
Mr. Andy, what are your struggles in the first year in building Studio Spark?
So the biggest thing for me was finding the right product market fit and audience to talk to. So because of my background in consulting, I am pretty adaptable in helping solve problems in many different areas. So when I was working there, I was working in the automotive industry, I worked in healthcare, I worked in transportation, I worked in education, all of these different industries. So there are a lot of industries that I had a lot of background knowledge about. And so, uh, one thing that I was really struggling with was, who am I really trying to help here? And what kind of problems am I really trying to solve? Because again, with my background, I was solving smaller problems and I was solving much more bigger, complex problems. My background was a lot of it was in enterprise software. So yeah, that was where I struggled the most. And that's where I was having the most conversations with people. As I talked to more and more clients, I started to gravitate towards more of the small businesses, and I found that I was enjoying my time and getting much more energy with those types of clients. And so that took quite a while to get to, and it's still something trying to nail down today.
Mr. Andy, what do you think Studio Park after 10 years?
Ah, that's a interesting question. So the way I would like Studio Spark to make an impact is that hmm, that's a really good question. I haven't really thought about it because I'm just flying by the seat of my pants right now. Um, but what I
Good.
would the impact I would like to make with Studio Spark is to help as many people really reclaim their life back, right? I with my personal journey, I I was definitely an extreme case. I definitely did not live life on my terms. And once I realized this, it was already too late. I had gotten cancer. I was, this was life threatening. I was at risk of not living anymore, right?
Yes.
But I made it through. And once I got through it, like I said earlier, I promised myself I never want to waste time again. So I want people to really have the same opportunity to have that type of reflection, right? And be able to give people the opportunity to realize what are the things that are draining most of their time that they actually don't need to spend time on anymore, right? And that's where, in this day and age, AI and automation has really helped us out with. And it's as simple as getting rid of mundane meetings or like stop taking notes during your meetings. It could be as simple as that. Or it could be more complex, like find all your leads that you want to cold email in minutes, right? When it's typically something you pay thousands of dollars for, right? And or either that or you spend a significant amount of time doing that for, right? I think that's probably the in 10 years I would just like to be able to recollect all the great people and the stories that um yeah, probably as I imagine myself in 10 years, what would really make me happy is me just going through my my list of contacts and saying and reflecting on how many people I've helped with and what kind of big impact I made for their lives and how are they enjoying their lives with their newfound time. That's what would make me the happiest, I think.
Very well said, Mr. Andy. Very well said. As the founder of Studio Spark, can you recommend a book to our listeners right now?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It's a book that I recommend all the time. Every time I mention it, I buy and gift a copy of it. And I hope the authors don't mind me being a champion of it, even though I probably butcher a lot of it. It's called Designing Your Life by Bill Burnett and Dave Evans. And I found this book before I got sick. I didn't pay too much attention to it. And then after I recovered, I used it I used it much more as a tool set for my life. So, Designing Your Life is a great book because it's a very tangible set of frameworks um, that helps people kind of understand that the life that we're living can be designed and we can actually change the way that we're living our lives with actual actionable steps. And one of the greatest things about it, and just to make it very plain and simple, um, there's not one way to live your life, right? And so the biggest thing I got out of this is that it's not about finding the right life to be happy. It's not about finding the right solution to be happy about your life. It's about choosing well and choose. So I have this little quote that I took from the book. There's no right choice. There's only good choosing, right? We can only make choices with the information that we have now. And as long as we make the best decision with the information we have at this moment, right? We make the decision and we move on and we test it. We get new information and we make the choice again. And that really helps navigate my life as I pull myself in 100 different directions just because I have this Swiss Army knife of skills. And so this framework that they provide, that Bill Burnett and Dave Evans provides, has really helped me navigate my life, and it's led me here. Yeah.
Mr. Andy, did design thinking approach feel natural to you, or was
Mhm.
it a stretch?
It was definitely a stretch, but the exercises and the way the book is written really helps out. So the tricky thing is, especially in my example, I lived my life definitely prescribed by my parents. So I am second generation Asian American. And yes, I was raised very typically second generation Asian American, where my path was be a doctor, be a lawyer. Grades were utmost importance and nothing else mattered. And not only that, I had both parents were narcissistic parents that I had. So I had to deal with my fair share of mental and verbal abuse. Um, and so by the time I graduated college, first of all, I didn't understand that I was in this kind of environment. But two, it wasn't until after I stopped working as a consulting manager at Deloitte where I realized that my whole life was prescribed to me. Now, there were a lot of actions that I took to make sure I pushed myself, but it was very hard for me to discern what was me and what was prescribed to me, and I was just following those actions. So when it came to when I found myself reading Designing Your Life, right? The practical stuff that were easy for me to latch onto. There's this framework that Bill Burnett and Dave Evans talk about, and it's the five mindsets of design thinking. And it's be curious, try stuff, reframe problems, know its process, and radical collaboration. That in itself was easy enough to follow, but when it came to being curious, that very first step, right? For me, who didn't have much of an imagination, that was probably the hardest stretch to go through because what the book does is it really encourages you to think outside the box. There's a really interesting exercise about mind mapping. And um, when you go through mind mapping, you just write down all the ideas that come to your head. And for someone like me, I freeze when I think about what can I actually put down on paper. And a few steps later, you actually draw out um, what they call in the book Odyssey plans. And that's where you map out three possible futures for yourself. And it's really kind of like this drawing exercise. It's fun to do. But if you stop yourself from being creative, that very first step of the framework, and you're not curious enough to explore ideas, your Odyssey plans end up just being what you've prescribed your entire life. So that's where I had the most challenge, where I had to try to expand myself in my creative thinking to try to make sure my Odyssey plans that Bill Burnett and Dave Evans have laid out in their book actually became a practical exercise for myself.
Mr. Andy, what do you think the authors got absolutely right about modern life planning?
Hmm. I think it all comes down to that quote that I gravitate to. It's it's there's good choosing versus the right choice. There's no such thing as the absolute right choice. It's just make the right choice and find out what happens, right? As long as
Yes.
you as long as you choose well, you consider the criteria and you've gathered your inputs and you're comfortable with those inputs, right? You've made and you trust yourself, you've made enough, you have enough right this moment to make that choice. And if it is the quote unquote wrong choice, you'll get that feedback. But that feedback is new information. So you're only more informed and you're actually better off anyway, right? So I think that was a big unblocker for me where I thought I had to make the right choice every single time. And it's still something I struggle with every single day. What's the right choice here? What's the right choice? And I work with AI and automation. So I talk to ChatGPT all the time. Like, what's the right choice here? Here's the criteria of my decision making. Like, recommend the number one choice based on whatever, right? But it's really about making sure that you choose based on the criteria that you feel right about. And for me, I combine what the Designing Your Life book has taught me, and I combine it with understanding what my own values are. So this isn't in the book, I don't think. But once I understood what my core values were, that's what helped me choose well. And then the choosing well framework in the book, when I pair those two together, my values and how to choose well, that's when I make fast decisions. I make choices that I usually don't regret, even though I still struggle with that. And they're choices that I'm happy with, and they're choices that generally lead me down a path where I gather energy from rather than just deplete all my energy.
Mr. Andy, speaking of core values, if you
Mhm.
compare designing your life to your company itself,
Mhm.
Studio Spark, what are the core values that they are the same discussed in the book?
Oh, good question. So I think the first one is always ask why. Um, always ask what if and why not. Like there is this. So whenever I work with a client, I always start with being absolutely curious about themselves as a person and also as a business. So I ask a ton of questions, and I try to be as open as possible and inquisitive of them and their world, right? That curiosity is so critical. Like, I need to understand who I'm working with because I can come up with the quote unquote right solution, right? But is it going to be right for them? Right. So I need to be very accommodating for that. And being very curious is one of the core values here that is taught in the book. And it's something that I infuse in my onboarding process. Right. I don't just shove a solution down anyone's throat. Even though I could be making a lot more money probably and doing taking on a lot more clients if I did that. But if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, right? If it doesn't feel good, then what was the point of this in the first place, right? You might as well have gone anywhere else to gone an off the shelf solution. The second thing is the radical collaboration. So for me, one of my biggest vulnerabilities is I call it a vulnerability. So I have major social anxiety actually. So I don't actually ask for help. I don't talk to many people. In fact, the fact that Daniel, you and I connected is like short of a miracle, honestly, because of how debilitating my social anxiety is, right? But
Yes.
asking for help, right? And it's so huge, right? With a lot of people that I work with, right? They actually don't understand what their true problem is. And that's where by me being curious, by opening myself up to them and them opening themselves up to me, we can start this dialogue and collaboration and really get down to the heart of the issue, right? So I had this really fun example here. Just this was actually just yesterday, so I hope my friend here doesn't mind. So I had someone approach me about this very technical solution. They needed a data scraper, and they built something out, very technical solution to collect massive amounts of data. And on my TikTok, I talk about data scrapers and using AI to help you analyze that data. And so they approached me. And so I said, hey, you know what? This doesn't sound like that much of a technical issue. Let me see if I can unblock you. So I spent 15 minutes on the phone with them. And what we discovered is after a few moments of conversation, yes, there was a technical issue to deal with. But why did this person need the data? Well, what we uncovered was this person needed publicly available data because they didn't have a contact with a personal relationship that they can source the actual data from, right? Hopefully I explained that in a simple way, but basically this person, he was subcontracted by the company and he was trying to get a list of vendors that this company worked with. And so he needed to use this technical solution to get a list of all the data of all these vendors, when really all he needed to do was build a relationship with some sort of customer solution manager type person within the company to get that list rather than this technical solution. So that's just like a really fun, very recent example that just happened yesterday, where people come to me with problems that they think that they need, but once we get into conversation and we collaborate on a solution, sometimes a solution is a lot more simpler than what people think.
Mr. Andy, what will be your short term and long term goals as the founder of Studio
Mhm.
Spark?
Yeah. Short term, right now, short term, as I get this thing really into smooth sailing, I guess you can say. Um, so my key values are freedom, authenticity, and self care. So what I'm really doing is making sure that I build a business where both my clients and I can achieve those three values. Right. So freedom, I mean, the easiest way to latch onto that is financial freedom, financial independence with their business. Right. A lot of the clients I work with, they started their business because they had a particular passion for their business, or they wanted financial freedom, or they found a way to do both, right? But then what they find out, and this is, this is very much referenced in the E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. This was probably going to be a second choice book if we didn't talk about designing your life. It talks about this hypothetical story about a baker, and she started a bakery because she had a passion for baking, but she bought herself into a job and realized that running a bakery is different than just baking, right? You're running a business. And so those are the people that I like speaking with. They had this passion for something, right? And suddenly it became their worst nightmare because they didn't realize the business behind the business, right? Like a fun example of this is, right, if you're starting like a in-home cleaning business, you find out that the in-home cleaning business isn't about having the most cleanest homes, right? It's a hiring and recruiting business. And so, you know, people find this out after they're in the business. So it's a no, because not many people talk about it. It's not much published information about this kind of stuff. And so those are the people I like to work with. And for short term, so kind of coming full circle, for short term, I want to be able to help rekindle the passion of people that got people into their business in the first place. And luckily, with the age that we're in, AI and automation can help with a lot of that. And that's where a quick, flexible, simple solution might be a quick fix, as long as we combine it with a sound strategy, and that's what we collaborate and work through.
Good luck to your goals, Mr.
Thank you.
Andy, and looking for more and more and more success to your company. And
Thank you.
what will be your advice for those people out there who want to build their own business?
Yeah, I'd say so. There's gonna be much better business tactical advice out there, that you'll get from other people. But the one lesson I pretty much risked my life for, and I think this is the one that I think I can provide value for, is whatever business you build, you're gonna spill your heart and soul into it, right? So make sure that business aligns with your values first. And Tim Cook says this, and current CEO of Apple. And you need to lead with your values. And when I heard that, it really got me thinking. You know, I left a very stable, very lucrative job on paper, and I I think now if I stuck with it, I'd be making a lot of money right now, and I'd probably be working less harder, even though I'd probably be working the same hours. um, because I'd be at a much higher position. And so, I have little minions working for me all over the place. Um, but it didn't align with my values. The leaders I was working with didn't align with my values. The kinds of work I was doing didn't align with my values. And so when I realized that making the money wasn't a part of my core values, it gave me the opportunity to say, hey, I need to reflect on my life. Let's apply this design your life framework to figure out how I can actually accomplish this. And then now I have a tools chest every day, every hour, every decision. That's my actual compass. And it's going to make sure that no matter how bad things get for me today, as long as I chose well based on my own values, I'll be okay. And that's a life like well lived. And I could just die tomorrow and I'll be okay. And I mean, like because of what I've gone through, like I think about my death every hour, and that sounds morbid, but it brings incredible amount of clarity and focus to me. And when the day ends, my reflection is, did I live today the way I wanted to live? And it's incredibly helpful, and it helps me adjust and make every day better than the last one.
Mr. Andy, thank you so much for your advice. And for
Thank
the
you.
book itself, how has the book changed the way you define success or happiness?
Mm. Yeah, I think it's really helped me define success as, have I lived according to my values? Like today, this month, this year, right? And those values will change. When I first did the exercises, right, my three core values were flexibility, authenticity, and creativity, right? Um, oh, and self care was the fourth one. But then as the years went by, authenticity crept up to be number one. Freedom replaced flexibility, although they're very tangentially related. And then self care overtook creativity. And so these things change. And so the one of the best things I take from this book is I choose well today based on the information I have today. I do more things. I make mistakes. I screw up something, and I get new information. And I take that new information and I build a new case, and I build a new story, and I rebuild my values in that way. Right. I have two boys now. One's 4, one's 1. My values were different when my first son was 1 and I only had one son. Now I have two sons. Like the self care crept up because I had to find ways to take care of myself. Because if I didn't take care of myself, I couldn't take care of my boys. In fact, so much so, I'll say an extreme example here of self care. So I mentioned my mental struggles in management, right? Social anxiety, right? So I actually take anti-anxiety medication, depression medication now. That's something I never considered because it was never really a big enough problem. But when my second son was born, the pressures were so high, and I wasn't taking care of myself because I was taking care of not only my first son, who was 3 at the time, but a brand new newborn baby too. Right. So it's like having three kids if you ever had two kids before. You might as well have like five kids. It's about the same thing. So that's when I talked to my therapist about, hey, let's actually consider medication because I need to take the edge off here so that I can take care of myself. So I have room, I have bandwidth to take care of what's important to me, right? Um, and so that's just an extreme example of how how these things help my decision making. Yeah.
Mr. Andy, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, Abstract Essay, in its fifth season, People, Abstract Poetry, in its first season, Book 101 Review. For sure, it's my fifth season already. Fifth
Yay.
season, and Comedy 101 will be in the first season. Food 101 is in its fifth season, like my book 101. Geography 101 in its third season. People, love letters in its the same third season, and my baby podcast Mental Health 101 and Movie 101 review in its fourth season, as well as my music 101. Please do listen wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Andy, if you could ask the authors one question about applying this framework, what would it be?
Oh, that's a really good question. Their book is so comprehensive. So I don't have, let's see. I guess I would ask a tactical question. Um, in today's day and age with AI and automation, how much do you leverage to supercharge the tactics in this book using AI and automation? I think that's probably what I would ask. I would ask a tactical question like that. Yeah, because the book gives a very comprehensive mindset and perspective framework, and it's very good. And so at this point, it's tactics, small little tactics to leverage and speed up time. Yeah. How would you use AI and automation to leverage and supercharge the foundations laid out in the book?
Indeed, your specialty, Mr. Andy Reinhold. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge to the world and your recommended book. So, can you
Thank you.
please invite our listeners to support your business and as
Yeah.
well as your future project?
Yeah, thank you for having. Well, first of all, thank you for having me, and thank you for giving me the opportunity. You can find me just at studiospark.io, and it'll link to everything. I'm usually on TikTok, and I'm always on LinkedIn as well. So, whatever is your best avenue to reach out to me, go for it.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Andy Reinhold because if you support him, more and more and more empowering business to come. So, Mr. Andy, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
More to come, people. See you soon.